Hi, this is Bob Weiss. I'm the host of Shaking Your World. Cheers. Folks, welcome home. Yet another episode of Shaking Your World. We are honored today to have a bona fide author in the house. Alexis is here to talk about serial killers and crime and fun things like that. And, well, here we are. So it's a beautiful day in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's February. It's chilly outside. 1, 2, 3 degrees. Nice and toasty in here, though, right?
Yeah, it's nice in here.
Excellent. So, Alexis, please tell us a story.
About what?
You're writing. What prompted you to pick your subject matter? How's that?
So my first book I started writing an essay for a college, can't think of the word now, scholarship.
Okay.
So I started it, and then I got bored one day, so I was like, let's send this out to a few publishing companies.
Sure.
And I sent it out to one, and they responded right away. So it was like a proposal at the time. I didn't have the whole book written, but I sent it out, and they offered me a contract within like 12 hours. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And now I've written 3 books, I think. The other 2 haven't come out yet, but it's kind of an interesting story how that started.
Excellent. So this is for your thought process for a psych course, for criminal justice, for what was the motivation?
It's something I like. It's a subject matter that I like to look into.
Okay.
And I don't know, I always have since like middle school.
Okay.
So I was like, let's write about it for this scholarship essay, because it was a research essay.
Okay.
And it could be on whatever you want.
Okay.
So yeah, we landed on serial killer theory.
Okay. Well, tell us about that.
Okay. So the one I wrote the book on is still just a theory. A lot of people don't believe in it. A lot of people do believe in it. So it's very wide ranging. But it's the Smiley Face Killer theory, which is where their whole MO is college-age males go out for a night on the town and they end up in the river. Like weeks or months later, it's normally not just a few days. And they have no evidence of drowning. And their BAC is pretty low. But the coroner still says, oh, they drowned because of the alcohol, and it just closes the case, apparently.
Okay, and your contention is that there is a specific killer in mind that's roving the country.
Maybe not one, maybe a few different ones, because it's a very wide ranging. It goes from, I think one of the cases I looked at was Montana, and then it goes to New York, so it's almost like both ends of the country. A
guy with a VW bus just moving around the country,
or
it's a cult, or okay.
It could be, because we looked at, like, there's Ted Bundy. He went all over the country. So it could be that, but most people believe it is more likely like a group of people who just have the same idea. Maybe they're not connected.
So you're lumping Ted Bundy in with just the Smiley Face Killer?
No, I'm just saying Ted Bundy he had a wide range. He went from Washington to Florida.
Sure.
So I'm saying one person can go that far, but it's not likely, I guess.
Okay. So discounting the thought that there are a number of people, though, that do have high BACs and, around holidays, perhaps like St. Patrick's Day, and, got to take a leak and that river looks awfully good and you're just there and boop, you fall over and there you go, right? Okay, so how do you discount those people?
Because there's evidence of other things. There's almost always. In the first few cases, they didn't test for it, but in the last 10 I covered, there's evidence of GHB, I believe it is, which is a date rape drug that is pretty much undetectable, but that is in their system, which kind of lends a little bit more to maybe this wasn't completely an accident.
Sure. Possibility. Now, are these people that are they straight? Are they gay? Are they of a particular proclivity, and that would lead them to be more date raped?
It doesn't completely, the families don't come out and say what their sexuality was, but looking back on their history, they're all straight men. So
I can't, maybe I'm just out of touch with that, but I can't imagine a lot of straight guys having to get date raped by, hot young women like yourself, and then to get pushed into a river somewhere.
Yeah, that's kind of goes along with the theory. I'm not saying they were drugged for that reason.
Okay.
I'm saying they were drugged with that because it's undetectable.
Okay.
So it's a little easier.
Okay.
Like they're not just going to come up and, I don't know, drug them with something else that'd be more detectable, if that makes sense.
Okay. So aside from the smiley face in the waterways, are there other smiley face related murders that have taken place as well?
Okay, sorry, could you rephrase that? Are you saying like the...
Sure, let me put it differently.
Okay.
So what I have read, and again, I don't follow that closely, but there has been a preponderance of the smiley face association with people that have found themselves in a waterway.
You mean the graffiti?
Right.
Okay, I don't actually connect the graffiti to the murders.
Okay.
I think that was a way just to give them like a name. Because generally people want a name that'll stick in the media for killers. There's like the Night Stalker, Golden State Killer, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I don't think the smiley face graffiti connects to the murders at all. Because wherever you go, you can probably find a smiley face graffiti if there's other graffiti around there.
Sure.
I think police officers just saw it in the general vicinity.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, we'll just call them the smiley face killers, whatever. Or people who look at the case who are more like conspiracy people just gave it the name.
Okay. So let me go a little further back.
Okay.
You personally don't have any great desire to disembowel people, to kill people, to prematurely end their disposal. So, you know, I have found in the 20 some odd years that we've been involved in tours, historic tours primarily, and of course our taste for the unusual and the macabre here, that there is a disproportionate number or percentage of the clientele of people that follow crime, and especially serial killers, that are attractive, young, educated women such as yourself.
Okay.
And I've talked to a number of psychologists about that and people in the law enforcement community, and no one seems to have a good answer to why that is. Maybe you can expound.
I'm trying to think for a second. I would say because at least like former like famous serial killers, obviously not like Jeffrey Dahmer because he targeted men, but if we're talking about, once again, Ted Bundy or something like that, he targeted people like myself, I would say. Not exactly, obviously, but he was in law school, so he was around a lot of educated women, and he targeted women. And I don't know. I don't have like insight on it because I'm really not sure. But I work with a lot of people who are like myself or who are like 20, 30, 40, that kind of thing, and are fairly attractive, and they're women, and they just dove into this concept for some reason.
Yeah, I wonder if it, and again, the same thing with us for our tours, it is the Cream City Cannibal Tour is easily 90-95% female, 25 to 40, college educated, attractive, don't usually have husbands, boyfriends, or involved in something of that degree. I'm sure they have dogs, but they, that's just the way it's today. But, and it just seems that they, I don't know if it's their desire to maybe supplant men to some degree, but it is curious to me.
That is interesting.
And it's a huge number. So anybody I talk to nationally and beyond that is involved in some portion of this industry has the exact same results.
Okay.
That would be something to study.
That would be. I've never actually known that's like a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
That's interesting.
It's a thing.
I'm going to have to look into that.
Okay. So when was your first experience reading on either the crime aspect or the serial killer component?
I think it was middle school, maybe like 7th grade.
Okay. 12, 13 years old, something like that, 14?
I think so, around there, yeah. I used to read a lot, just like Googling stuff about serial killers because it interests me, and I can't really pinpoint a start to why it interested me. A lot of people in my genre of career can say like this person down the road from me was murdered, so then I got into it, or this happened and I got into true crime.
Sure.
I don't really have that. I just kind of looked into it one day, and then my grandma was like, why are you so interested in people who kill a bunch of people? And it's just kind of grown from there. So
You know, it just occurred to me that way before you were born, that there was a movement for women, probably in the 1930s, 40s, somewhere in there, to read like Judy Bolton stories, I think they were, and then
Okay.
Nancy Drew stories.
Okay, yep.
And those are crime stories, and they were, of course, highly romanticized as well.
Yes.
But they really captivated these generations of young women to think about things like this. And much of the film noir that was done in the 40s and 50s was really aimed towards women as well.
okay.
So the suspense, the thriller, the aspect, the dark, complected guy, mysterious, whatever else. And I wonder if these things all kind of somehow collectively work on our psyche as well, and bring forward into now the ability to express that in different capacity.
Okay. I definitely feel like they do,
Okay.
because if I'm looking back at my life, I definitely read all the Nancy Drew. That was a huge thing. Then I moved into more like Stephen King, which isn't necessarily, it's not true crime,
Right.
but it's still along the same
Sure.
kind of thing as horror and murder and that kind of thing. And I've always watched horror movies, but generally I always looked for the horror movies that had like slasher movies, that kind of thing. So even before I began reading about serial killers and looking into true crime and stuff, I did that. So I feel like that definitely could have played a part in my interests now.
Well, we have our own things that are developing right now. The macabre aspect of things that has
Okay.
its own little giggle and jiggle aspect that go along as kind of a farce on the ghost aspect, because we've
Okay.
shot so many different things. We haven't, but whether it's A&E, Discovery, whoever shot
Yeah.
a number of things here, and it seems to me that so many of these are just embellished. It's a nice way to put that.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
fabricated, and they're not remotely interested in really what the history of something is, just to create something for the big screen.
Yeah.
But slasher movies really are made for that young, late teen, early 20 female audience as well.
Yeah.
Drag your boyfriends along as well. Squeal. And it's interesting to see how that has all taken place as well. So women have this real dark side to them.
Apparently
and
we
this is
do.
their opportunity to both express it and to kind of enjoy it, be captivated by it. And I guess if I were in academics, I might want to look at find a way to kind of get a feel on the pulse of that.
Yeah.
So this is fascinating. So you got 3 books that are already either published or at a
In the
publisher.
works, yes.
Okay. What's next?
So I have a series coming out that's less on the conspiracy side, which
Okay.
my first one was a little more on the conspiracy side.
Okay.
So this series is going to be just unsolved missing persons cases and murder cases. And before I wrote the book, I have a whole file cabinet at home that is just notes on cases. And this was before I started writing at all. So for some reason, I was taking notes on all these cases, but I kind of, not liquefied, but put them into like a book format. And I had that book turned out in about 2 weeks and the second one in about 2 weeks. So there will be a third one to that as well, but I'm not done with that one yet.
Prodigious. So you were thinking about law school at one point, or?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah, for the first 2 years of school, I went to UWM, and I was in philosophy because that's fascinating to me. And I was going to go to law school, and then I started looking into all this stuff. I started writing, I started doing a podcast, I started working with a lot of groups who help missing persons cases and Jane and John Doe cases, and I kind of just stopped that. So I got a degree in business, but law school didn't interest me anymore because I already kind of had a career going, so it didn't seem worth it, if that makes sense.
Cool. So you're way beyond Husserl and Sartre and Kierkegaard at this point.
I don't know what that means.
Maybe. Okay, sure. All right. Where do you want to go next?
I have no idea.
It's a big city. It's a big world. Where have you been?
I've really only lived, I grew up in Kenosha, and then I moved to Milwaukee for school, and I've lived here ever since. And I don't like Milwaukee, just to be honest. So I'd like to move into the mountains or down to maybe like Louisiana or over to Oregon, something like that.
Yeah,
it's a big range.
Similar. Yeah. New Orleans is a interesting place. I have a real love-hate relationship with that myself. Phenomenal stories and history. We will be down in a couple of months filming our tours there as well.
Okay.
First up is Key West for us, then back to Savannah where we have tours, and we're putting this whole package together in our virtual tours. But rich history in many parts of the country. You've got privateers and buccaneers and just general piracy, and then every format of corruption in government you can imagine is in New Orleans. Milwaukee isn't that far away, by the way. It's just different, but far more corrupt, I think, than Chicago is. It is where you find it. But I would suggest that you do spend some time in New Orleans. Have you been there at all?
I have not. I would really like to go there, and I would like to live there for a while. I'm not a huge fan of like the warm weather, but I like the history of it, and I like the whole idea of it, basically.
Well, perhaps we can find a time when we're down there, we can coax you to come down as well.
Yeah.
And maybe introduce you to some things, get your perspective on that. That would be
awesome.
Be a fun little thing. As we're just bopping around here, you spent the night in the penthouse.
I did.
How did that go?
It went good.
Anything happen?
So we were down here till about midnight, and we went up, and we probably stayed up till like 2 a.m. And we messed around with the dowsing rods, I believe they're called.
Divination rods, sure, okay.
Okay, yeah. So I've used them before, and nothing's happened to me before. Because, in all honesty, not a believer in ghosts.
Okay.
But we went upstairs, and we each took turns walking around, and then we would stop where they crossed, and we would ask a lot of questions. And I know I wasn't moving them, but they did move. So since we stayed, I've been trying to convince myself that I was moving them, but I wasn't, so I can't really reason that out. So it was interesting.
Okay.
And then one of us is a huge believer in ghosts, so he didn't sleep at all. And he thought he was hearing things all night, which he might have been. I don't know, I was asleep, so it was interesting.
Yeah, pretty much 3 o'clock, 3:30 is when things come out to play.
Okay.
And that often for me begins with just I hear like woman stilettos walking back and forth. Sometimes I'm awake and you get that incredibly cold gust of air that can't be associated. You have the sensation that there's someone sitting next to you on the bed.
Okay.
Sometimes you see the indentations. Sometimes it's like they're sitting on your chest.
Okay.
And what I'm hearing most frequently this last couple of weeks is a sound as I'm on the 3rd floor. There's no 4th floor. Usually hear somebody walking on the rooftop.
Okay.
Well, there's a foot of snow there, if anything else, and there's no access to it, and etc. So, but a lot of people are hearing that. The knockings, even like the pocket doors, which don't move readily, open and close by themselves. So there are some fun things. Maybe after this, off camera, we can walk downstairs in the cellar and see if that talks to you at all.
So when we went on the tour, when I met you last Tuesday or something, we were in the basement, and before our tour guide Leah said anything about having like ghost cats down there, one of us heard a meow and started looking around for the cat, and he told us that once we got home, and I was kind of confused by that because neither of the people I was with they don't like to fabricate things or lie about stuff, so I'm not as much of a skeptic anymore, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah, there are no cats here, and there are no actuators, and we don't embellish anything. We don't make things. It's not a Disney ride. We don't make things happen. They've got their own schedule, and they have been quite playful of late. And we had the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters were here on Saturday night, and they have a ton of stories. They're breaking that down and editing their footage, but they had many experiences up there, so they're quite happy. Like anything else, it's how you approach things. If you have such a closed mind that you're not going to be receptive to things, then sometimes you just don't get it.
Yeah, I get that.
Cool. So, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Okay.
Have you taken a Cream City Cannibal tour?
I have not.
But you're going to.
I will, yes. We So coming here for the ghost tour was a surprise because it was my birthday and I didn't have anything I wanted to do. So they planned that and we came here. And then I realized you guys are the ones with the Jeffrey Dahmer tour, but it was freezing out. So we would like to do that when it gets warmer because that's very interesting to me.
Well, say when. Well, look that up for you.
Okay, that works.
So the only Jeffrey Dahmer tour in the world.
Okay.
And we have an interesting backstory ourselves. And he would hunt, obviously, on 2nd Street. The gay bars were to the right and left of us. And he would stop here.
Okay.
And he increased his visits in 1991 as the season progressed. And coincidentally, that's when his kill ratio also increased.
Okay.
So because our clientele is heavily law enforcement and the judicial end of things, my personal theory is that he liked to come here because you've got judges and attorneys, whatnot, that are here, and he considered himself, I'm sure, as the biggest badass in the room.
Yep.
And nobody knew who he was. And
Yeah.
that way he would just, I'm there all the time and nobody knows.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So an odd guy, he had those piercing eyes that I shall never forget. He would not, as you've seen, we are almost all females who work here, and a couple of us in the kitchen aren't, and he would insist upon having a man come out of the kitchen and make his gin and tonic.
Okay.
That's only otherwise I never would have had opportunity to interact with him, and there was no conversation. So, but those eyes were rather specific.
Okay.
So, dead and piercing at the same time.
Yeah.
So when you've read about serial killers overall, is there a common thread that you see there?
Depends, like, what kind we're talking about. Because
Okay.
there's 3 basic, like, categories they can go into. There's the mission killer, which aims to get rid of one kind of person. There's, for some reason, I cannot remember the other 2. I mostly focus on the mission killer, but there are 3 different kinds of it. And so you kind of have to go by category, and then by that you have to go by demographic and...
Well, there's this problem of opportunity as well. But if you look at
Yes.
Dahmer, I mean, the people that he is associated with were primarily gay.
Yes.
But he didn't care if they were white, black, or Hispanic. They might have had a preponderance to be one or the other. But just, I think, as an opportunist, what people also don't seem to realize about him is that he would often go to Ricky's, which was a strip club on 26th and State, a block and a half away from his apartment complex.
Okay.
End of the night, drunk, belligerent, and he would be attempting to pick up some of the dancers that were there who were female. So I don't think he really cared at some point. He just looked for the easiest opportunity. I think he was more specifically looking for a particular type of head shape and maybe a physical configuration.
Okay.
And I think that's what he wanted to have. But that just happened to be more wayward men, perhaps.
Okay. I didn't know he even went to that strip club, and I haven't looked into it that deeply. So that's really interesting to find out.
If you want to explore something about Jeffrey Dahmer, I can hook you up with John Borowski,
Okay.
who is both an author on Dahmer, but he's also done like the serial killer culture movie that we're in and the series as well.
Okay.
So some really interesting aspects of that. And he's done Holmes and Fish, and he's done everyone. It might just be a real nice resource for you as well.
Yeah, I would like that.
Okay. So your disdain and contempt for Milwaukee, what's that about?
I don't know.
You did say disdain and contempt, didn't you?
No, I'm not really sure. The old apartment I lived in had robberies in our lobby, so I didn't like that. I've heard...
Could be any major city, though, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
Okay.
I've heard a lot of stories about people getting robbed and assaulted and that kind of thing, so I'm not a huge fan of that. And
again, any major city.
I know. I don't know. It's just too big of a city for me. I'd rather live in the country close to a city, so like I can drive there.
Sure.
But I'd rather not be in a city.
So it's not that it's pedestrian, parochial, constipated, myopic, and the home of mediocrity?
No, it's...
No, I said that on you, so it's okay.
I don't know. We live by Brady Street, so it's very busy, and I'm just not a huge fan of it. There's sirens going past our window every 20 minutes, and it upsets the dog, and then it upsets us, so it's a whole thing.
Sure. Okay. All right. So why Oregon?
really sure. I really like the oceans, but I also really like mountains. So Oregon is more of a place where I can get both, whereas if I go to like Tennessee, I only get mountains. If I go to New Orleans, more ocean. So I would like a place where I can get both and be out of big cities.
Cool. So the names of your books are?
So the one that's already out is Not by Chance, and it's not the parenting book, because there's a parenting book with the same name. And the ones coming out should be Cases That Haunt Me, but there's also a show that's called something similar to that, so I don't know if we're going to change it or not.
Okay. And the publishing house is?
Genius Books.
Genius. Now, going back to where we began, I'm rather captivated that you are able to pen something within 12 hours, you got an offer.
Yeah, me too.
That's extraordinary.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It's basically not a thing.
Yeah, so they responded to the email and they were like, yeah, we'd like to offer you a contract. Like, we can still talk things out, but here's the contract. And they said, maybe don't post on social media that you have a contract, because we haven't signed it yet.
Right.
But they said you can say like you just got a contract within this amount of time.
Sure.
So apparently to them it was something very new also,
Okay.
which is awesome, I guess.
So how did you decide fortuitously to go to Genius on that?
I really didn't. They were the first people that came with a contract. And I was like, you know what, yeah, let's do it. Because I didn't have a lot of experience in the industry. But they've been wonderful since
So
I've
it wasn't
been with
necessarily your intent that, I'm just not just writing this because I got this application, but I'm looking for a book deal. It just fell together.
It just happened, yeah.
I have found in life, I've done some really cool things, and really it's because I've just fallen forward, just being in the right place and being prepared enough for the moment, I suppose.
Yeah.
And blind luck, chance, whatever it might be, and suddenly you've got something really big going on.
Yeah, that's how most of the things in my life has happened too. That's how this happened. That's how the book happened. That's how a bunch of other things happened. So.
That's very cool. So your degree in business, so in marketing, in finance, and which portion?
It's just entrepreneurship, like umbrella.
Okay,
type
so a
degree.
general business degree now?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. Like the Lubar School of Business or anything?
No.
Okay.
Just general, yeah.
So your experience though at UWM had to be favorable, right?
With what?
Well, I mean, you got out, you got your degree, you're moving in the right direction, and you got a good foundation for what you're doing.
Yeah, it's
so you
going
have a
okay.
comprehension both for how your contracts went together. I mean, it worked well.
Yeah,
right?
it works well. I'm not where I want to be yet, obviously, but...
Well, you're so old, too.
I know. Yeah, but it's going well so far. I'm happy with where it's going.
Excellent. So what do serial killers eat mostly, aside from other people?
I don't know.
Well, that'd be a text by itself, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be quite interesting. I've looked at, like, last meals and stuff, but that's about it.
Well, if you found that there's a preponderance for people to eat, fried food or something, and maybe you can make an association that because of, whatever dietary concern or something, or...
I could theorize all day. I'm great at that.
Sure. Okay.
Might have to look into that now.
So are you just going to focus on American crime, or are you going to work about something in, Norway? I can't imagine they have a lot of serial killers there. But
mostly I've been focusing on American crime. I've looked at some in Australia, and I've looked at some in, like, England. But other than that, I haven't really gone into other places.
Sure.
Maybe because it's not as publicized. America kind of romanticizes it. As you said, we really romanticize murders and serial killers, so we get a lot more news out of it.
Many years ago when I was in Paris, going along with the music here, and it was my honeymoon at that point, and people would find out that you're from Milwaukee. Oh, Chicago. Oh, Dillinger. Gangsters.
Yes.
So and then years later we're in Key West, and people are talking about where you're from, Milwaukee. Oh, Jeffrey Dahmer. So people really identify with crime in a big way here,
they do.
and the more onward the crime, the bigger the crime is, the more people make the association like that. So we don't have royalty. We've got gangsters and thugs and
murderers.
sure,
apparently.
Tupac and whoever else, right? So
It's interesting how that works.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite food?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I grew up in an Italian family, so a lot of pasta, a lot of scaliti,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Sure.
But, well, and a lot of like Italian sausage, because we always made it homemade.
Sure.
But now I'm vegetarian, so we can't do that. But I'm still a lover of pasta for sure.
Cool. Favorite restaurant anywhere of all time?
That one's difficult too. I'm trying to think. In Kenosha, there's a place called Gerhard's that I really love. It's a more like a supper club type place.
Okay.
But I've gone there since I was like a few years old, and my family loves it. So there's that. Or in the Dells, there's a place called Ishnala that has really good food, and I like that place.
Okay.
But I don't have like a one place. I like to try new places, so.
We'll talk to you in a couple years. So the Black Sabbath shirt that you have on right now.
Okay.
Any correlation between heavy metal and people doing untoward things to people?
No.
You sure?
I am sure, because I listen to a wide range of things. I listen to a lot
I
of...
didn't mean you necessarily. I didn't know about
No.
your background killing people, but...
No, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Like myself, I listen to like Van Morrison and Beatles, and then like Black Sabbath and stuff like that. But everyone I interact with has mostly listened to like modern pop music and stuff. And they still are very interested in the same things I'm interested in.
So they are or aren't killing people?
They aren't.
Okay.
I don't think so. They haven't told me, so I don't know.
You have a shovel in your car?
No,
Okay. Should be prepared just in
I don't
case.
think.
All right. Any questions of me?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I've got a question. What are the dynamics? Because obviously music, there's no money in. For writers, authors, is there money in it still?
With what? Sorry.
How music, there's not money in music anymore. Is there still a lot of money in writing?
No, not when you start off.
Okay.
Not at all.
Let me frame it this way. That's an excellent question. So, presumably, once you get more tomes that are published, you will be able to make a significant living off this.
Hopefully, but for a lot of people, it doesn't work out like that.
Okay. So obviously, you're not everybody. So, is this in your mind your calling? Because law school's not. This is becoming your calling.
Yes, it is.
So it's not just going to be an author of. What should we call your genre? What is your genre?
True crime.
True crime.
Yeah, that's what I go into.
Okay. So, but you also probably are just writing general stories to people, or doing something like that. You're a writer, obviously.
Yes.
So you have to write. And you write other things too?
I do not.
Once upon a time, there was a baby bunny kind of thing?
No, I am awful at narrative writing.
Okay.
Or at least I think I'm awful. I'm trying to get into it more and practice it more, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'm an editor right now. I edit articles that are going out to other big companies, which are on just various topics, from motorcycles to like drugs, and like it's a whole thing.
Americana.
Yeah, but I don't write them.
Okay. So are you then, do you have an office as an editor? Are you freelance? What do you do?
I do a lot of freelance, but I also work with some companies, like online writing companies. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Any parting thoughts?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I've got a question. Sorry to bring this back to this, but so if your book is like $20, what does an author actually make? From like a print book, audio book,
okay. So my book is, 14, 13, I don't know. It wasn't a huge book to start with.
Sure.
With my publisher, I make 40% of profits. So if we take 14, take out the $4 it takes to make the book, I'm making $4 basically.
Okay.
On a book. I don't have an audiobook, so we don't have that in the works yet.
How many pages is your book? Your first one?
130?
130, 12-point type or something, font probably.
It's
10.
Yeah, I think so, but it's not like a big book. It's like, I don't know. It's a little bit of a smaller book, but it's not like
Okay.
a tiny book.
Okay.
Not sure how to explain it.
All right. So people should buy your books so you make more money.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, then shamelessly look at the camera and plug what your book is.
So my book is Not by Chance by Alexis Ruberg, and it focuses on the Smiley Face Killer theory, where they target college-aged men after a night out, and they end up in the river weeks or months later with no evidence of drowning.
Sounds interesting.
It was interesting to write.
Okay. And the next two books are?
Not by Chance, and I'm guessing like Not by Chance 2 or whatever they choose to name it. And those are just focusing on missing persons cases and murder cases that are unsolved. And
So cold
I
cases.
can't. Yeah, cold cases.
Okay.
But they're not all cold cases. Some of them are still being investigated and stuff
Okay.
like that. But they're all unsolved.
Okay. Would you like at some point to sit down with some detectives or homicide cops or something? I can arrange that for you.
I would like to, but it depends what we're talking about. Because there's a few cases where I kind of, it's not around here, so that'd be fine. But a few cases, I talk about the police mistakes, because
Okay.
there are huge ones
Yeah,
in
there
some
are.
of those cases. So ideally, I wouldn't want to sit down with people who I
Sure.
wrote a few pages about making a lot of mistakes.
Well, just being objective about this, but certainly during the Dahmer situation as well. So we know well both the coppers that arrested Dahmer, the coppers that didn't arrest Dahmer, the judge that had let him go on a few occasions. We know him as well, the prosecutor. So there are myriad mistakes that
Okay.
took place with that. And
Yes.
certainly the social worker's time, and yet again, he's a nice young man. He won't do anything.
Okay.
So I think that it might be a cool little thing for you, and certainly
Yeah.
for them as well, to get everyone's perspective together. So why don't we arrange that and bring you back
Okay.
at some point?
That sounds great.
Nice. This has been a delight having you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
thank
taking
you
out your
for-
time.
yep.
And look forward to the next time. But I do want to take you downstairs and get your impressions on some
Okay.
things there
Yeah,
at
let's
some
do
point.
it.
Folks, thank you very much for taking the time to listen in. For the 4 or 5 of you that are out there and have any questions, please send an email to us at shakersmilwaukee@gmail. In the meantime, be good to yourselves and your friends. Cheers.